In the world of technology, few names carry as much weight as Steve Jobs. To millions, he became the face of innovation, the man behind the devices that changed how humanity communicates, creates, and connects. But long before the black turtleneck, the packed product launches, and the standing ovations, he was just a child nobody planned to keep. This is the real, emotional story of how an adopted boy, confused, rebellious, and searching for purpose, helped build Apple from a small garage into one of the most valuable companies in history. A child given away before life even began on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco. A baby boy was born to two university students who were not ready to raise a child. His biological parents made a painful decision. They gave him up for adoption. That baby was named Stephen Paul Jobs. He was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, a working-class couple living in Mountain View, in what would later become Silicon Valley. Paul was a machinist, a man who fixed engines, repaired machines, and worked with his hands. Clara was an accountant. They weren't rich, they didn't have powerful connections, they didn't own companies, but they gave Steve something money could never buy: belief. Paul often told him, "You're special, we chose you." Those words stayed with him forever, but being chosen also left questions. Why was he given away? Why didn't his real parents keep him? Those silent questions shaped the young Steve in ways nobody could yet understand. The boy who never fit in Steve was brilliant, but he was difficult. In school, he got bored easily. He challenged teachers. He questioned rules. He hated doing things just because everyone else did. Some teachers thought he was gifted. Others thought he was a problem. The truth, he was both. As he grew older, Steve became fascinated by electronics. His father taught him how to take apart machines, study every component, and rebuild them carefully. Paul Jobs had one simple rule: if you're going to build something, even the parts nobody sees should be beautiful. That lesson would later become the soul of Apple. Meeting the friend who changed everything as a teenager, Steve met another electronics genius, Steve Wozniak. Woz was older, shy, and brilliant with circuits. Steve was bold, intense, and obsessed with ideas. They were completely different. And that's exactly why they worked. Together they pulled pranks, built gadgets, explored electronics, dreamed bigger than anyone around them. Neither of them knew it yet, but this friendship would change the world. College and dropping out in 1972, Steve enrolled at Reed College. His parents spent nearly all their savings to send him there. But after just 6 months, Steve dropped out. Not because he wasn't smart, because he felt lost. He later admitted he couldn't justify spending his parents' life savings on an education he didn't believe in. So he quit, but quitting didn't mean leaving. He stayed around campus. He slept on friends' floors, returned Coke bottles for food money, walked miles just to get one decent free meal. Sometimes he had almost nothing. Yet somehow he felt freer than ever. One class changed everything: calligraphy, beautiful lettering. Spacing, design, art. At the time it seemed useless. Years later it would help shape the design of the Macintosh, and personal computing forever. The garage that changed history in 1976. Steve Jobs was only 21. Wozniak was 26. And together, in Jobs' family garage in Los Altos, they started a company. Its name, Apple. They didn't have investors. They didn't have a fancy office. They didn't have business experience. They had parts, ideas, and belief to raise money. Steve sold his van. Woz sold his calculator. Together, they raised enough money to build their first computer, the Apple I. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't polished, but it worked, and people noticed. A local computer store ordered 50 units. Everything changed. Turning a small idea into a revolution, soon came the Apple Roman II, unlike anything before it. Easy to use, beautifully designed, powerful, it became one of the first massively successful personal computers. Apple exploded. Within a few years, Jobs went from sleeping on floors to leading one of America's fastest-growing companies. By age 25, he was worth over $100 million. But money never satisfied him. He wanted to change the world. The fall nobody expected success brought pressure, conflicts, power struggles, egos, and in 1985, the unthinkable happened. Steve Jobs was pushed out of Apple. The company he helped create fired him. Years later, he said, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to me." At the time, it felt like public humiliation, failure, loss, but it became his rebirth. Starting again from nothing, Jobs built NeXT. Then he bought a small animation company that would later become Pixar. Pixar created Toy Story and changed animation forever. Meanwhile, Apple struggled without him. Eventually, they asked him to come back. The return of the visionary in 1997, Steve Jobs returned to Apple. The company was near collapse. Many thought it was too late, but Jobs thought differently. He simplified products, focused on design, demanded excellence. Then came one revolution after another. iMac, iPod, iPhone, iPad. Apple didn't just survive. It changed humanity. The lesson behind the legend Steve Jobs didn't win because life was easy. He won because pain never stopped him. Adoption didn't break him. Failure didn't stop him. Being fired didn't destroy him. Every rejection became fuel. Every loss became direction, and every setback became part of the story. The boy who once slept on floors built products used by billions, and proved one powerful truth. Sometimes the people who don't fit into the world are the ones who end up changing it forever.